What's the coldest thing someone has ever done to you that they pretended was an accident? The wedding that wasn't an accident. Okay, so buckle up because every time I tell this story, people think I'm exaggerating, but I swear on everything I own, this actually happened. My cousin Jenna accidentally scheduled her wedding on the exact same day as mine. Yes, same day, same time, same side of the city. But here's the thing, I told her my date 8 months before she even had a boyfriend. Let me rewind. Jenna was one of those cousins who was friendly with you to your face, but acted like life was a competition behind your back. She compared everything, jobs, houses, vacations, even who brought the better dessert to Thanksgiving. I always brushed it off because honestly, I just didn't care. I thought we were chill. Anyway, I got engaged and the whole family was happy for me. My mom posted it on Facebook, a bunch of relatives reposted, and everyone knew the wedding was going to be July 14th. We booked the venue literally a week after the proposal. Fast forward a few months, Jenna meets a guy on Tinder, and 3 months after that, boom, she announces she's getting married. I congratulated her. I really did, but then she says the date, July 14th. I literally laughed because I thought she messed up. I was like, oh haha, that's my date. And she just goes, yeah, I know, total coincidence, wild, right? Coincidence my ass. Her venue was 25 minutes from mine. Some relatives started canceling on me with weird excuses like, oh honey, your wedding is just so far away, or you should have told us your date earlier, all while posting about how excited they were for her wedding. I confronted her calmly, and she pretended she had no idea what I was upset about. She said, and I quote, "Your wedding isn't the center of the universe. I picked a date that worked for us. You don't own the calendar." That's when I realized this wasn't stupidity, it was strategy. She was trying to make her wedding the main event and mine the backup. She wanted the family's attention so badly, she was willing to literally sabotage my day. The coldest part. She had her mom call my venue pretending to be my mother and tried to get them to confirm cancellation so she could swoop in and take my slot. Luckily, my coordinator didn't fall for it, but here's where karma stepped in. And no, I didn't have to lift a finger. 2 weeks before the weddings, her venue had a plumbing explosion like actual sewage fountain, and they had to shut down until repairs were complete. Guess who had nowhere to get married? She tried to move her wedding to a local park. It thunderstormed. Not just rain, biblical flood. Rain. Meanwhile, my wedding sunny breezy. Perfect half the relatives who ditched me ended up soaking wet under a gazebo, eating cold supermarket sandwiches because her caterer canceled too. And the best part, everyone suddenly remembered my date. Everyone suddenly had wedding regret. Everyone suddenly wanted to show up after all I didn't let them. I had someone at the door with the guest list, like a bouncer for my dignity. Jenna didn't talk to me for a year. Then she apologized, but the kind where someone says, "I'm sorry you took things the wrong way." Cold, manipulative, calculated. But honestly, every time I think of that sewage fountain erupting like a divine middle finger from the heavens, I sleep a little easier. The accidental email that almost cost me my career. So this happened about 6 years ago, but honestly, I still think about it at least once a week. Not in a bitter way anymore, more like a, wow, I really dodged a nuclear level snake kind of way. I worked at a small marketing agency where everyone pretended to be friends, even though you could feel the competition slithering under every conversation. The kind of place where people bring cupcakes to work, but also volunteer to help management in ways that suspiciously coincide with someone else getting in trouble. Anyway, I had a coworker named Lydia who looked like she collected compliments the way ocean floors collect shipwrecks. She was all smiles and babes and OMG you're amazing to your face. But the second you walked away, her eyes tracked you like a predator waiting for the exact moment you stopped paying attention. I never considered her a threat because I wasn't competing with her. I just wanted to do my job, get paid, and go home to eat pasta and watch trash TV. That's it. But apparently even that was considered a show of dominance in her eyes. So one morning, the biggest client we had, like seriously biggest by revenue, the one keeping the CEO in nice shoes, emailed me asking for an updated campaign plan. I'd been working on it for weeks. Lydia had been helping with research in that way where she's mostly just hovering. I finished the proposal, triple-checked everything, attached the documents, and clicked send. An hour later, I get called into my boss's office and he's pissed, like red earlobe pissed. He shows me an email from me that had been sent to the client right after my proposal, except it wasn't mine. It was a message basically saying, "Hey, just so you know, our team doesn't think your current direction is working. I'd push for you to consider different leadership if you want better results." The email implied we sucked. It implied I thought the client sucked. It implied the whole project was doomed. The subject line, confidential thoughts. Who the hell would write that to a client? My boss was like, "Why would you sabotage your own work? Why would you insult a client? Why would you send something like this after delivering a proposal?" And I'm sitting there, heart doing Olympic gymnastics, saying, I didn't send that email. He didn't believe me. At first it came from my email address. My stomach dropped when I realized the cold strategic genius of what happened. Someone accessed my laptop while I was at lunch the day before. We didn't have auto lock. It never occurred to me it needed it. I trusted my coworkers. I left my desk for 30 minutes. That was enough. The signature on the email, copied and pasted. The sentence structure, not like me at all. The attachment on the follow-up email, a blank document named Draft Ideas Docs, probably to look legit. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a calculated takedown dressed up like an accident. Guess who had been sitting at my desk when I walked in from lunch the day before? Lydia. She'd said, "Oh hey babe, just grabbing a pen," and walked off. My pen was in my drawer. She had absolutely no reason to be there. I didn't want to accuse her without proof, so I requested the IT logs. And oh my god, it was so obvious it was her. The login activity showed that someone used my computer at exactly 12:17 p.m. I was literally buying a salad across the street at that moment. I had the time-stamped receipt. When I showed this to my boss, his face dropped. Then he asked if I had any enemies. I said no. Then I said, "Unless you count overly friendly people." He got it immediately. They investigated quietly and found out Lydia had been covering her tracks in multiple little ways. She forwarded herself client files by accident, changed meeting times I wasn't told about, even deleted notifications on shared project boards. Her whole plan was to get me fired so she could take over my position. The position she'd been hinting for 6 months she could probably do better. The coldest part. When they confronted her, she cried hard, like Oscar-worthy sobbing. She said she must have clicked something wrong and maybe logged into the wrong profile and didn't realize anything sent and was only trying to help manage my workload. She buried the truth under a blanket of incompetence, hoping they'd buy it. They didn't. She was terminated the same week. And here's the twist I still laugh at. On her way out, she hugged me a full, tight, desperate hug and whispered, "I thought you wouldn't notice." Chills, actual goosebumps. She walked out like she was the victim. I stayed, got promoted the next quarter, and ended up managing the accounts she'd been trying to steal from me. Sometimes karma is subtle. Sometimes it's fast. But sometimes my personal favorite karma arrives in high heels, crying mascara, holding a cardboard box of stolen office supplies. The day my best friend, accidentally, told everyone my darkest secret. Alright, story time. I swear on my left shoe, the better one, that this is 1000% true, even though every time I say it out loud, people blink at me like I'm narrating a soap opera. So when I was 19, I had this best friend named Maddie. We'd been inseparable since high school, the kind of duo that people made fun of for being a package deal. We shared everything, clothes rides, secrets, even snacks when we were broke as hell and living off ramen. At least I thought we shared everything. There was one thing I hadn't told anyone though, not her, not my family, not even my diary, because I trusted nobody, including my future self. I had been diagnosed with panic disorder at 17, but like the fun version, the one where you randomly pass out if your body feels like being dramatic that day. It wasn't life-threatening, more like an unreliable narrator living in my nervous system. I kept it quiet because people treated me weird when they knew pitying hovering, like I might faint into their soup. Anyway, one night Maddie and I went to a house party at a guy's place from our college art club. I had one drink, just one. And the room started spinning a little too fast. I knew what was happening. I went outside for air, so I wouldn't embarrass myself in front of 50 drunk strangers. Maddie followed me out, and I told her I trusted her. It slipped out. I said, "Hey, don't freak out, but I might faint. It's a thing, I'm fine." She held my arm like she cared. She said, "OMG, babe, that's so scary. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I didn't faint. I recovered after a few minutes. No big deal. Or so I thought. The next day, I go to class and literally everyone is acting weird around me. Awkward smiles, soft tones. Someone even moved a chair for me like I was 80. Then a girl from my class goes, "Hey, are you okay? Maddie told us what happened." That's so terrifying. My stomach dropped. I asked, "What exactly did she tell you?" And the girl goes, "Oh, she said you had a medical emergency and almost died. She was really freaked out. She said you were too embarrassed to talk about it." Excuse me. I confronted Maddie after class. She put on her best innocent baby blue eyes performance and said, "It just slipped out. I swear everything I said was an accident." But the thing is, she didn't just tell people I faint sometimes. She said I had some kind of serious heart condition, that I collapsed in her arms, that she saved me, that she thought I wasn't breathing. None of that happened. Not even close. She turned my private medical issue into her dramatic, heroic main character moment. And what she didn't tell anyone, that she was the one who pressured me into drinking that night. But wait, it gets colder. A week later, the college health office calls me in because, according to Maddie, I had multiple episodes and was hiding a dangerous condition. She made me sound unstable, and that's when I realized the truth. Maddie wanted me to be fragile so she could look strong. She wanted me dependent so she could feel important. She wanted me quiet so she could speak for me. Her accident wasn't an accident. It was a narrative she built. So I did the one thing manipulative people can't handle. I told the truth to everyone. I explained the real disorder. I explained what actually happened. I explained that I trusted someone who violated that trust for attention. People didn't take her side. They never do when you calmly expose someone's theater production. Her little spotlight dimmed. Her OMG, I was so scared for her act fell apart. People stopped asking her for updates on me, and she couldn't stand it. She cornered me in the bathroom one day and said, "You made me look bad." And I said, "No, you did that." We stopped being friends that day. 3 months later, she tried the same sob story attention thing with a new girl. And that girl fainted for real because of a heavy strobe light at a show. Guess what? The new friend told everyone, "Don't involve Maddie. She likes to add seasoning to stories." Karma is slow, but she's thorough. He wanted me to stay small so he could stay in charge. I grew up in a family where confidence was treated like contraband. If you said, "Hey, I think I'm good at this," they'd respond with some flavor of, "Don't get cocky." So, when I got into my mid-20s, I still struggled with believing I could, do anything without messing it up. Enter Ethan. We worked at the same place, a mid-tier insurance company, with motivational posters that lied straight to our faces. He was the funny guy, the one who could roast anyone and get away with it. Everyone liked him. I liked him too until I didn't. I was decent at the job, but I was quiet, reserved, and still figuring things out. Ethan, on the other hand, had this weird older brother energy, like he'd volunteered to be my unofficial mentor. At first, it was helpful. Over time, it got creepy, undermining, controlling. He'd say stuff like, "You're smart, just not promotion smart. You're good with customers, just not good enough to handle the big accounts. You'd freak out with more responsibility. You're too sensitive, managers hate sensitive." He said it casually, like he was saving me from disappointment, and I believed him. I stayed in the same modest position for 3 years, because every time I thought about applying up, I'd hear his voice in my head saying, "You'll fail and look stupid." I didn't even realize it was him shaping that narrative. It just felt like caution. But then something shifted. Our boss retired corporate brought in a new director named Vanessa, who had the kind of energy that could iron your soul flat. She was scanning through internal records doing her little evaluations, and one day she calls me into her office. She says, "Why haven't you applied for any internal advancement in the last 3 years? Your metrics are top 10% across the board." I shrugged, told her I wasn't leadership material. She stared at me like I had told her I personally caused climate change. "Who told you that?" No one told me that, not directly, but I heard it again and again, repeated enough times until it became truth. She asked me to do a 30-day trial as a senior representative. Just a trial. I wouldn't lose my job, I couldn't fail. I said yes. Ethan found out from HR before I even left the office. He walked straight up to my desk, perched on the edge like a judgmental seagull, and said, "Whoa, you're doing the trial. Are you sure that role is hell? And if you choke under stress, which you sometimes do, you could embarrass yourself." It was the tone. The tone. Genuine surprise followed by concerned discouragement. I suddenly saw all the times he steered me away from growth, acting like he was protecting me, when really he was protecting his place above me. And something in my brain clicked. I told him, "I think I'll be fine." He gave me a pity smile. "Well, good luck seriously," which meant, "You're going to fail and I can't wait to comfort you afterwards." But the thing is, I didn't fail. 30 days passed, I crushed the trial. I handled escalations better than half the senior team. I improved our response time metrics. Customers asked for me by name. Vanessa called me in again. "You're getting the position permanently, and we'd like you to take on a small supervisory track." I walked out of her office in a daze. Ethan was waiting at my desk again, leaning back in his chair like a king waiting for bad news to validate his worldview. When he saw the smile on my face, he froze. "Did you pass?" "I didn't just pass." I said, "I'm being promoted." He blinked twice, like his internal programming hit an error. "Oh, good for you, I guess." But the shift had already happened, not for him. For me, I could see it in his eyes. He hadn't just been rooting for me to fail, he had been counting on it. Because if I rose, his mentor position evaporated. His superiority evaporated. His whole identity as the smart one, the experienced one, the helpful one, gone. People started asking me for help instead of him. One guy even said, "Ethan told us you weren't ready, but you handled my client better than he ever did." Oof, karma didn't punch him in the face. Karma made him irrelevant. And honestly, that's worse. My sister thought I'd never leave our hometown, so she made sure of it. My older sister Dana always had this smug big fish small pond energy. She never left our hometown. Never tried to. She was the kind of person who thought traveling 2 towns over was a major life event. Me, I always wanted out. I talked about applying to schools out of state, moving somewhere different, anywhere with a skyline that wasn't made of Walmart and cornfields. Dana loved to mock me for it. "Oh, please. You'd be back in a week crying for mom's cooking. You're not cut out for city life. You'd get eaten alive by normal people. You're too naive. Stay here." She'd say it jokingly, but you could hear the bitterness. She needed me to stay small because she stayed small. But here's where it gets nasty. When I applied for a program in Chicago, she intercepted the acceptance letter, as in physically took it from the mailbox and hid it. I only found out because my mom saw Dana with the envelope and assumed she was delivering it to me. When she didn't, Mom asked me if I was excited. I said I never got anything. The confrontation was insane. She admitted she took it because she didn't want me throwing my life away. What she meant was she didn't want me leaving her behind. I was furious. My parents were furious. But the damage was done. The deadline had passed. Or, so I thought. I emailed the department head with a long explanation. Attached screenshots of my initial application. Attached my mom's written statement about what happened. I fully expected them to say, "Sorry, rules are rules." Instead, he wrote back, "This is highly unusual, but your application was strong. We'd still like to offer you admission. We'll accept your confirmation late." I screamed loudly. Dana cried when I told her, tears, actual tears. You're choosing them over me. No, I was choosing me. Fast forward, I moved, I thrived. I built a career, I grew a spine. I made friends who didn't sabotage me. I learned that fulfillment feels nothing like guilt. The real karma. Dana is still in that same town and everyone knows what she did. Mom told one aunt, that aunt told two aunts, and now it's family legend. She complains sometimes that nobody respects her anymore since the letter thing. Good. The coworker who wanted my job so badly. He tried to sink me first. I worked in IT. Not glamorous, not exciting, but stable. I had a coworker named Martin. He was older, more experienced, and constantly positioning himself for a team lead promotion. I wasn't even gunning for the role. I liked being a specialist and minding my business. Apparently that wasn't acceptable. Martin started accidentally leaving me out of important emails, then forgetting to tell me about meeting changes, then misplacing documentation only I needed, then correcting me in front of clients even when I was right. All subtle enough to excuse, all frequent enough to be intentional. His favorite move was helpfully offering to redo parts of my work, then presenting them as his contribution. He wanted leadership more than he wanted integrity. One day, he really pushed it. We had a major client rollout, extremely visible, extremely delicate. I had spent weeks prepping. Martin pulled me aside and said, "You seem stressed, let me handle the initial deployment." Which sounded nice, until I realized he wanted to be the face of the project. I told him no, and suddenly, mysteriously, a key file went missing from our shared drive. A file only he and I had access to. He acted shocked, blamed the system, blamed glitches, blamed me, but I had already backed up everything locally, just in case. Because I wasn't stupid, I knew what he was doing. So during the rollout meeting, when he tried to step in and take the lead, I calmly opened my laptop, projected the fully prepped files, and presented like it was nothing flawless. Our director turned to Martin and said, "I thought you said we weren't ready." Martin was silent. 2 weeks later, the performance evaluations came out. I got nominated for an internal award. Martin got placed on a performance improvement plan. Why? Because IT logs everything, including the fact that he accessed and deleted the file. He didn't realize the deletion was timestamped and tied to his employee ID. His Sync Me plan literally sank him instead. Karma delivered. My uncle said I'd never make it in music. Then he accidentally became my biggest advertisement. I grew up playing guitar, never formally trained, never fancy, just obsessed. My uncle, let's call him Rick, was the walking embodiment of the phrase, "Dreams are stupid." Anytime I played, he'd say something like, "You're talented, but talent doesn't pay rent. Music is a waste of time. You'll end up broke. Get a real job." By 22, I was playing gigs in bars, cafes, tiny little places where the audience was 4 drunks and one guy pretending to write a novel. Rick mocked every update, still doing that silly hobby, still pretending you're a rock star, still making peanuts for tips. But then something magical happened. He started ranting about me to everyone, family, friends, his Facebook friend group full of other midlife crisis warriors, his coworkers, people who didn't even ask. He'd go off. My nephew thinks he's some big musician. This kid actually believes he'll make it. He wastes all his time singing instead of working like a normal person. And because the universe is stupid and hilarious, people started looking me up. His coworkers found my Instagram. His Facebook friends checked out my YouTube. Random strangers visited my website because they were curious what kind of failure he was obsessed with complaining about. And the algorithm did its thing one day. A small indie label reached out for a meeting. They had discovered me because I swear this is true. One of their junior team members saw Rick's rant in a comment thread, thought it was funny, looked me up and liked my music. Fast forward, I signed a modest but legitimate contract, started touring regionally, released music that did surprisingly well on streaming. At the next family gathering, Rick shoved a plate of mashed potatoes at me and said nothing. Absolutely nothing. The man was defeated. Later, my aunt whispered, "He's been telling everyone he always knew you had something special." It's poetic. He tried to sabotage my confidence. Instead, he became my unwilling PR manager. The friend who wanted me miserable. Because she was miserable, I had a friend named Lydia. She struggled with depression for years. I tried my best to be supportive, but over time, I noticed something darker. She wasn't just sad, she needed me to be sad too. If I said I was doing well, she'd make a face. If I talked about opportunities, she'd find ways to poke holes. If I made progress, she minimized it. I used to think she just didn't know how to be happy for people. Then something happened that pulled the curtain back. I started therapy. Real therapy. Not venting to your friends, actual professional help. And it worked. Slowly, gradually I began to feel lighter, more regulated, more hopeful. I started setting boundaries, saying no, taking care of myself. Lydia did not like this. She accused me of abandoning her, told me I was changing, said I was becoming selfish. But the worst part, she told our mutual friend group that therapy had made me cold and brainwashed me. She framed my growth as betrayal. One night during a really ugly argument, she said it outright, "I liked you better when you were broken. At least then I didn't feel alone." I realized she wasn't rooting for me. She was rooting for my failure, because success would highlight her stagnation. We drifted apart after that. It wasn't dramatic, just slow silence. Years later, one of our old mutual friends messaged me, "I wish I had gone to therapy when you did. You grew so much. You're doing amazing now." That was the moment the karma landed. Lydia didn't destroy me. She just revealed herself. And now the people in her orbit can see the pattern too. My ex-coworker tried to sabotage my first big presentation, so I turned the whole room against him. Short version, I was 24, nervous, new, and about to give a presentation to executives. Huge deal. My coworker Josh, who desperately wanted the same promotion I was in line for, decided to help by reviewing my slides. He deleted 2 of them, rearranged the order, added a mistake to one of the graphs. Sabotage dressed as mentorship. But plot twist, I had already printed the original deck for the execs in advance. His changes didn't match. During the presentation, one of the VPs said, "Slide 6 seems different from the printed version," and Josh jumped in with, "Oh, I updated some of her errors last minute." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "That's interesting because I didn't authorize any edits. Could you explain why you changed the data?" Silence. Then I pulled up the file history on the screen. His name, timestamp, every edit. The room went cold. He was removed from the project the next day. I got the promotion. My coach wanted me to fail because I didn't fit his mold. Then he watched me break a record. I ran track in high school. I wasn't the tallest. I wasn't the most muscular, but I was fast. Our coach Reynolds had favorites, tall, broad, cocky boys who looked like future college athletes. I didn't fit the image, so he ignored me, dismissed me, pushed me harder than anyone else. "Your form is wrong. You're not college material. Try not to embarrass the team." But one day, our star sprinter got injured. Suddenly, Reynolds needed someone to run the 200 meters at regionals. He reluctantly picked me, and then he said something I'll never forget. "Just don't come in last. Not do your best. Not you got this. Just don't be the worst." So I ran harder than I ever had. Not for him, for me. I didn't just place. I didn't just medal, I won. Broke the school record by 0.2 of a second. Reynolds looked like someone had unplugged his soul. College scouts came up to congratulate me. Reynolds suddenly became my biggest fan. It was pathetic. He wasn't rooting for me. He was rooting for his image of who should succeed. And he was wrong. My boss tried to keep me in a junior role forever. My boss, Karen, had this weird habit of praising me publicly while blocking me privately. She'd say, "We couldn't survive without you," but then deny every request for advancement. When I asked why, she'd say, "You're too valuable where you are. You're not leadership material yet. It wouldn't be fair to the others." But then she'd promote the others. Finally, after 3 years, a higher department head approached me directly and said, Why didn't you apply for the new internal position? What position? Karen never told me. They interviewed me anyway, and I got it. HR later told me Karen had accidentally forgotten to send me the posting. Accidentally, sure. After I transferred, her team fell apart. Turns out I had been doing half her workload without knowing it, and once I left, the cracks showed karma is simply truth arriving late.